This is Don't Panic, episode number 365, recorded June 5th, 2023. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Don't Panic. Don't Panic is the best way to learn about new technology with its stunning resolution and immersive audio, and now we've made it even better. Let me introduce Dan and Colby to tell us more.
About what?
Sean, you were frozen for about 20 seconds.
Was I? Oh
Yeah.
no! Oh no! Should I do it again?
You should
I
at
was
least
so
tell
I
us what
wrote
you
that.
said.
All right, let me just do the little intro bit again because I
Okay.
was doing my Apple parody after watching that stupid 2-hour thing. Don't Panic is the best way to learn about new technology with its stunning resolution and immersive audio, and now we've made it even better. Let me introduce Dan and Colby to tell us more. How was
There
that?
we go.
Nice. That would have been great if
it worked.
the internet cooperated.
I need Sonoma. That's my problem. What's up, gentlemen? How we doing this evening?
Pretty good. I'm kind of tired from watching that whole presentation.
Now I know why they pre-record them now, because imagine doing that live. My goodness.
I was trying to find just now. First I Googled. I was like, someone must have done this. A list of all the Apple presentations, keynotes, and their lengths. I did not find such a list. But then I was like, oh, you know what I could do? I could go to their YouTube channel and just check how long they are there. But Apple actually posts a lot of YouTube videos. Which Apple product would you say is featured in the #1 most watched YouTube video on Apple's channel?
Okay, can I ask one question?
Yes.
How long has the video been on the channel?
8 months.
Mm.
Which was also surprising to me. I would
I'm
have
gonna
thought
guess-
that, Apple interest, we're on a little bit of a downswing,
8 months ago. 8 months ago would have been just... I'm going to guess it's... Okay, I'm going to take two guesses. One is AirPods. The other is how to set up your iPhone.
Introducing Apple Watch Series 8.
Oh. Huh.
Isn't that surprising? The 14 Pro is, what is this, 7th? Oh, I guess interesting. I didn't know that Apple has all these videos. They have like a guided tour of iPhone 14 and 14 Pro, narrated by someone standing on a rooftop in New York City.
They're nothing short of fantastic production value. I can tell you that.
Yeah. And then so it's iPhone 14 Pro, and then the next video that is about a product that is like a product introduction video is the new MacBook Air 4 years ago. It's
Wow.
kind of crazy. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I was thinking, this is our 10th WWDC we've covered, if you can
Wow.
believe it. iOS 7 in the first one today, iOS 17. And I was thinking over those 10 years, there've really only been what I would consider to be two major hardware. One more things, if you will.
Being the what we just watched and AirTags, right?
Yeah, AirPower. Who could forget?
AirPower.
No, the watch, I would argue, is probably
Yeah.
the major hardware platform. I mean, yeah, you can talk HomePod and you can talk somebody, but I
And
really
was that
think
2014? Am I remembering that correctly?
the watch. Yes, that's correct.
Wow.
Absolutely. So it goes we haven't really ever covered a product introduction theoretically this big. Kind of crazy to think about.
Wild. We're here. We're history in the making.
Listen, we got Dan, we got Colby, literally worldwide developers.
Right. This is why I got into journalism.
I was about to say they're not worried about AR, VR goggles. They're excited for continuity camera for Apple TV. So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff to cover from today's keynote announcement. Are you guys ready to dig in?
Boy, do we.
I'm ready, but this is actually I've just verified it. This is not the longest Apple keynote.
Okay.
I'm guessing that it is the longest pre-recorded one. But most of the WWDC keynotes were at least 2 hours.
Makes sense.
Back in the before times, which is interesting. I'm so used to the new style. I was like, holy crap, it's already noon. It would have been what, 2 o'clock over there. It's like, how is this thing still going?
Yeah, they used to do live stage demos. It's crazy.
That could you imagine doing that for this product? Like, this product needed to be virtual pre-recorded because the stage demo-ness, if anything, only takes away. Now, this could all be faked, but assuming it isn't faked, the stage demo takes away from your ability to understand what's actually going on. I mean, I guess it'd be cool to see someone wearing it, but otherwise you gain nothing by seeing it in person.
I would agree, although, and we'll get to it, I am suspicious of how many of those demos actually work fully today.
Well, we know that they didn't for the iPhone. Have you read the stories of like when they showed, like, look, on the original iPhone you can browse any website on the internet. You could only go to the New York Times, but you could go to the New York Times and it would work. But that was the only website that worked.
Yeah, it's a little bit of smoke and mirrors. Let's dig in. We're going to start with some of the more boring stuff. We'll do them in order, although you guys tell me if it's boring. We're going to start with what hardware in the Mac line was announced. A new 15-inch MacBook Air. They're saying it's the world's thinnest 15-inch laptop, 0.45 inches thick, 3.3 pounds, fanless M2 chip, MagSafe connector, twin Thunderbolt 4 ports. It will start shipping in June at a starting price of $12.99. They've cut the price of the 13-inch Air as well.
Yeah, I've read something that the 15-inch Air is $100 more if you do a spec for spec configuration. I think it starts at a little bit higher specs, but if you bump the 13-inch up to that, it's just $100 more for the extra screen, which is pretty cool. And the extra screen and bigger speakers.
Mm-hmm. The speakers on mine are pretty bad. I don't know.
It's funny though, because like, have you listened to like a 5-year-old, Apple laptop or God, even a 10-year-old one? They sound so much worse. But yeah, time marches on.
AirPods has really gotten me away from using the speakers though. I don't know the last time I used the speakers built in. I will give them that.
Yeah, only when I'm very showing
something,
but occasionally when I'm sitting on the couch, comes in handy.
Yeah, nice addition, filling out the line there. We also had some additions in the Pro category. The Mac Pro or the Mac Studio is getting a refresh now with M2 Max and M2 Ultra, higher bandwidth HDMI, 240 hertz refresh rates. Basically just refreshing the machine. But the Mac Pro is now with Apple Silicon, as they like to say, the M2 Ultra chip, 24-core CPU, 76-core GPU, and up to 196 gigabytes of RAM on this bad boy. 7 PCIe slots and 8 Thunderbolt 4 ports, so you'll be able to really customize the heck out of this thing. Both systems shipping in June. Upgraded Mac Studio starting at $2,000. The Mac Pro starts at $6,599.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
So it's actually less memory than the old Mac Pro, which I also read by quite a bit. Though it is faster, though it's like super unclear to me in what universe you'd buy this computer, because like it was kind of funny watching talk about smoke and mirrors. When they were introducing this, they were like, oh, and look all the things that it can do. And all the things that they were talking about were things that the M2 Ultra enables, which are all the same things that the Studio, is that what they call it? Mac Studio.
Yeah.
Can do. So it's like, so what can you do? And there's something, 8K, you can do 24 8K streams. I forget what it was. Something insane like that. I was like, okay, but like that's not relevant to me at all. So I think I don't think I'll ever own a Mac Pro. Maybe I can I would like, if someone was like, Dan, I'll sell you a trash can Mac Pro for like $200. I would get it just because I think it looks really cool. And then I could say that I do have a Mac Pro, but I don't think it'll ever be a computer for me if this is the way that it's going. The Mac Pro 2013, also one of the first products we covered on this show, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. The office that we squatted on Wednesdays has several trash can Mac Pros. I could just snag one for you. I have a key.
Well, yeah,
Wow,
if they end up
okay.
throwing him in the dumpster like they did in college, let me know.
Sure.
Generous offer. Yeah, it's I think it's just really more about those expansion ports. I mean, that's when you have to have specialized hardware.
But here's the thing: who is going to make those? Because it's one thing. My understanding, maybe I'm wrong about this, but my understanding is for something like that, I don't think you can just plug it into a Mac. Like it's not like a USB microphone or something where it's like, oh, all USB microphones kind of work the same. All of those things seem like pretty unique. There isn't, I can't imagine there's a standard like, oh, all video capture cards for like capturing, live stream video all work exactly the same. Maybe they do, but
I think
someone
they
has
do.
to make all of these things, sell them, and write the software for it. And it's like such a tiny, tiny percentage of the market, but maybe they probably know more about this than I do. People who made it.
Dan, they're going to sell 20 of these. But I guarantee you at that price they're probably profitable. So they'll sell 20 of them. You're right. You and I think someone online figured out like the max spec of Mac Pro is you can get it like over $30,000 with.
Well, I remember distinctly that the last one was over 60 grand. So this is a bargain.
Hot damn.
It's just
Again, it is
wild.
sad. Like so many. I when was the first time? Oh, right. When we were when I looked into taking a first class flight to Australia, and I realized that you'd measure it in Hondo Accords. But ever since then, there have been more and more things in my life that I realized I could measure in Hondo Accords, and that Mac Pro would have been another one of those. That's about 3 brand new Hondo Accords. Roll them into the driveway for fully spec 2019 Mac Pro. This one's a bargain. This is right in the median American car purchase category at 30 grand.
My question: how many simultaneous 8K streams can your Honda Accord convert into ProRes in real time?
That's true.
Come on.
Probably not even one.
Not even. That would be such an Apple thing to do, to have like the comparison where it's like, we'll do 24 streams, Accord 0.
That's right.
It's like, oh, they're right. I mean, not lying. All right, that's the hardware. Let's chug into the software, if you will. Let's start with iOS 17. I would argue not a major overhaul, but a ton of new features baked in, especially in some of the core apps. Calls will now have context-specific posters, as they call them, similar to how you design your lock screen. That will be customized. You can customize yours. It'll be saved to your contact card, and then that will show up on other people's phones when you call them, which is pretty cool. We'll also have live transcripts for voicemail. So when someone is leaving you a voicemail, it'll actually show up on your lock screen where the text will start appearing as they're saying it. You can answer the call mid voicemail, kind of like how phones used to work. I'm gonna take this bit by bit. Any thought on that, guys? I think that's cool.
It's cool. Yeah.
I imagine this is going to work like the profile photos works today, where someone has to accept your card.
Yes. And it's all a shocking amount of the features announced today are iPhone to iPhone only. Like, I really do feel like at this point that chasm between iPhone to iPhone and iPhone to everything else is because the live voicemail, I'm assuming, is an iOS to iOS only feature, because for you to, I don't know that iOS can interface with the phone company's voicemail in real time. I could be wrong.
It can, because it lists the voicemails.
Right.
But calling into them in real time. That's the part. I mean, the transcription I get, but being able to interrupt a voicemail in real time.
I bet they're doing the same thing that the call blocking services do, where it registers itself as a something. I know, because I had to remove one recently, and so I called like a special T-Mobile number, and it allows you to set, I forget what it's called, like a forwarding number or something like that. And then all your calls can get screened. Like, that's how RoboKiller and things like that work. So maybe it does something like that.
Entirely possible. My thought would be the second a call goes to voicemail, it flips to a FaceTime audio call automatically. Assuming you're both iOS users, it knows your phone numbers are tied to your
Did it say
iCloud
that
account.
was iPhone only?
No, I'm totally making this
okay.
up. I just because if you remember in the very first iPhone when they had visual voicemail, it was a huge breakthrough. That was like a
Mhm.
weird workaround of the traditional voicemail. Maybe it's got more integrated over time. I'm actually curious about the technology behind that.
You know what else someone said on one of Blue Sky or Mastodon today was the that when the iPhone came out, and I don't remember this, that was the first time a phone would automatically combine SMS messages sent in succession into one blob. And before, because I do remember on the phone I had, on phones I had before smartphones, that you whatever it was, 260 characters, it would split it up.
And you get message one of two.
Right,
Message.
right, and it would automatically handle that. And this is kind of similar. It's like, oh yeah, why can't we do that now?
I remember reading something about the voicemail, like the voicemail stuff today, and that they have some crazy interface where the your phone like uses beeps and boops to like.
Oh, that was
Get the
definitely the
voice.
case when I called that T-Mobile number. It felt like the dial-up days. There were some other sounds happening.
It'll be interesting to see. I'm curious, like a lot of this, to see it in practice. We also have in messages, they've tweaked the interface a little bit. There'll be transcripts for audio messages, a more powerful sticker feature. I know you dudes love stickers. Location-based check-ins with friends will be in line. They are hiding that bar of apps that everyone found super inconvenient, and they're now putting it behind a menu, which is
Yes.
very welcome. And they are also having a check-in feature where you can send somebody, hey, I'll check in with you when I get there. It'll automatically ping them you arrived if you did, and if you didn't, it'll prompt them to remind you, hey, did you make it? So that's cool. Interrupt me if something sounds interesting. FaceTime now lets you leave video messages as a form of voicemail. New sharing features. I think this is interesting. It's 2023, and you can finally wirelessly share contacts with fellow iPhones. Something I thought they should have had a long time ago with Name Drop and expansions. That is for contacts, as well as expansions in AirDrop, where it'll automatically detect someone near you to share pieces of information, and then if you separate, it'll continue the transfer using the internet, which I think is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Very cool.
AirPlay is coming to CarPlay, so now if multiple people with iPhones are in your car, they'll be able to wirelessly connect to your car to share in the music and other features. Also coming to hotels, where you'll be able to scan a QR code on a TV in your hotel and automatically AirPlay to it, which I think is cool if it ever actually rolls out in bulk.
I'm really excited about the car thing. Sadly, my car doesn't support CarPlay, but does this work with any? Like, why does it have to be CarPlay specific? Was my question. Why can't, if I'm playing something over AirPlay at my house, why can't I have the same features?
I believe you do have the same features.
Oh, okay, then great. Then it would also work in my car.
No, that was the part of the. I think that was part of the later stuff when they were talking about Siri and all of the other in-house updates.
Okay, cool. Colby, finally, more than 10 years later, our little Spotify app is getting rolled out into more places. Does Spotify still not let you do this? Does Spotify still not let you share control of a playback session? I think they experimented with it once, but I don't think they ever actually rolled it out.
They did have. I remember having like shared. It was like while I was working there.
Yeah.
There was something it was like in beta, or I don't know, maybe it was employees only. But I thought that happened where you could invite people to your sesh. Now I want to know.
Well, while you're looking up that answer, Siri no longer requires the word "hey" before it. Hopefully that won't be confusing. New technology behind autocorrect using machine learning to help with sentence level correction, as well as better predictions based on what you've typed historically.
They seem to really go out of their way not to use all the same terminology the rest of the industry is using with the ChatGPT stuff, but it did seem like they were implying that is the technique that they're using.
Oh, for sure. I don't think they said AI once. They said neural engine a lot. Like there
Yeah.
were certain Apple terms that I agree with you. I do believe it's just language sets. You know, I don't know that they've revolutionized that, but it's cool. The fact it all happens on machines, pretty interesting. Journal app lets you document your activities and thoughts. It'll notify you, hey, you should check it out, and journal about things you did or places you were, and it'll kind of use all your phone's data to have you do that. Mood tracking is added to health. New feature called Standby. Frankly, probably a precursor to a HomePod with a screen at some point. But putting your iPhone on a dock in landscape mode will show you, and landscape mode will show useful widgets, like a clock and other things to create a permanent display, which I think is again another why didn't they do this sooner kind of thing.
Yeah. Right? Man, I would love a HomePod with a screen.
If you have,
Yeah.
I saw, it's another thing I saw online was someone was saying if you have an old phone, you could now convert this
Just
more
make it a-
easily into just a screen that is always on, just sitting around somewhere. And I don't know if they explicitly announced this, but I did see it in one of the things that went flying by in one of the videos. Finally, you can have a widget that controls a HomeKit thing from your screen. Yeah. So you could also use this to make like your little smart home dashboard.
Wow.
I'm curious how this works on older displays versus the new always on displays.
Yeah, but I guess it's presumed to be plugged in. Like it has to be it has to be charging, right?
I don't know that they specifically said that, but you're right. That's where it makes the most. I mean, to me, the ultimate ideal of this is the MagSafe charger, where you stick it on and it's just charging and stuck there at the same time. Which have been on phones for a while. I mean, that's always on's pretty new. So yeah, I agree with you. That's a nice one. I have a Amazon display clock in my bedroom that I love, and I could see a phone definitely replacing that. Those are the big hits, unless you guys think of anything else. iOS 17 is due this fall. Developer preview now, public beta in July. I will say I did look at a list of things that are coming that weren't announced. And the one that stood out to me that I am one of those small things is, you know how when they send you two-factor texts and the OS recognizes them, it will now do it for emails. Yes!
Oh.
Yes! I'm excited for that.
I've noticed that more and more of the new websites and new apps are like, oh, we're passwordless login. You just give us your email, and then we email you every fucking time you log in. You have to type in this 6-digit code. Like, that is less convenient. So I'm grateful for this.
That'll be a nice addition.
The sound of me switching to Apple Mail or whatever. Do you think it only works if you use Apple Mail?
That's a good question. It doesn't say, but I would assume they can smart scan all your notifications and like what don't they have access to? But that's a good question. We'll learn more when it comes out. I will say things like the Journal app that really are separate of iOS aren't rolling out soon. They're at least coming in the fall. So pretty much no features you'll be able to get shortly. We can touch on iPad OS 17. It borrows a lot of the updates we already talked about. What's new specifically for iPad is iOS 16 style lock screen customization complete with widgets. Although interestingly enough, the widgets are now interactive on iPad OS, so you can take actions without jumping in apps, which I think is wonderful, and we'll talk more about that when we get into Mac. Health is available on the iPad for the first time. And the Notes app, and actually the whole OS, but Notes app specifically has been updated for massive PDF support, annotating and collaborating in real time, being able to sign them and send them back as PDFs, all native, which me as an Office nerd who works on PDFs a lot is pretty damn exciting.
Yeah. This gives me hopefully removes any reason I'll ever have to install Adobe Acrobat Reader on a Mac.
Yes. Yes. I agree with you. I have to print out and red pen stuff at least once a day as part of my job in marketing. I have an iPad at work. When this update comes, I'm genuinely going to try to move to all digital commenting and everything, and I am beyond jazzed. because it's just so much easier. So
Did I tell you that at least as of 2019, this must have changed. But one of Lena's coworkers at her old place of work would ask that any annotations being made to a document be printed out, be printed out and handed to him. And any annotations that he would give to you would be handwritten on a piece of paper and handed to you.
Yep.
So like 80, or 99% of the company was doing the Microsoft Word, whatever they call it, thing. And then this one asshole is just ruining everything, because if one person doesn't do it, it totally defeats the point.
I have the total opposite problem. I'm the digital asshole, and everyone else wants to do it on paper.
Title.
And I'm like, guys, I'm the digital asshole. It's the title of my autobiography. Put that on my gravestone. Yeah, outstanding.
Wow.
All right, let's chug along here. WatchOS 10. We're getting an interface overhaul, guys. Ring the bell, ding, ding, ding. Getting away from not complications. What were they calling them? They weren't widgets. They were
I don't actually describe more of this, because I was half paying attention through almost the entire keynote, and so this flew by, and I am excited for changes to the watch, but I don't understand what they're changing.
Glances. The carousel of widgets for different apps and features. They're moving away from glances to focus on widgets. Now, what you're saying, Sean, isn't that the same thing?
What the hell is a glance?
So a glance, if you go all the way back, so I'm going back to the original Apple Watch to see
I'm looking at my Apple Watch right now. How do I glance at something?
Use your eyeballs. Swipe up on the watch face drops you into a carousel of widgets for various apps and functions to let you get a quick look at battery life, the weather, and scores.
Oh, okay. The giant list of pills that has like Wi-Fi notifications.
No, not that. I'm sorry. Then maybe it's.
Has it changed?
No, I think you swipe down. I'm sorry.
Swipe down. Okay, these are my notifications.
Okay, so maybe it's not that.
All right, maybe these things don't exist anymore.
Maybe they don't. I'm reading the original review of the iPhone back in 2015. So, anyway, it's not about the old, it's about the new. And the new is widgets are going to be taking over, focusing on a smart stack of widgets for content you access regularly. All you have to do is spin the digital crown from the home screen. Key apps like Activity, what you're listening to, upcoming appointments, whatever will automatically appear. There'll also be a widget for complications that you use most frequently as well. They're redesigning a bunch of other stuff in the OS, focusing more on using the full screen corner icons to give more touch points. There's also a bunch of other changes around fitness. Cyclists will have a bunch of new support. Hikers will have a bunch of new support. Mindfulness will have a bunch of new support. It's coming in the fall. 2 new watch faces, a Snoopy watch face, and another one with colors.
Colors.
I think it makes sense, these changes. I mean, it's not... I'm still not an Apple Watch guy. I don't own one. I didn't like the one I owned because I never thought the OS UI was particularly useful for getting things done. It was more good for like tracking things as they were happening, but I never took a lot of actions on my watch. I'd be curious to see if this changes that.
I'm trying to think of actions I take on my watch. Honestly, the only time I really touch my watch, I look at it to see what the temperature is outside. I do that 3 times a day. And then when I go to bed at night, I sleep with my watch, so I use it as the alarm. So I set my alarm and I use it to turn off all the lights in the house. And that's
by poking it with your meat finger.
Yeah, with my meat stylus. poke.
Another good title.
Yeah, I'm typing that one down.
Poke it with my meat stylus.
Yeah.
You don't ask the lady in the tube to turn them off for you on your watch?
Well, see, the problem is Laura goes to bed before I do almost all of the time.
Got it.
So I need to silently shut it down, if you will.
Well, that's what's so fascinating about all of this stuff they announced is so much of it is will intelligently serve it to you. And I'm like, I pray for you that works. Because again, I feel like the watch is a great example. If it could actually serve you the right thing at the right time that is helpful and useful, that suddenly becomes a pretty powerful device because you don't have the real estate or time to go digging for what you need.
Yeah.
Not like on a phone or a computer. So
Yeah.
I'll be optimistic if this works, but
Yeah, I'm looking
It'll
forward
try.
to trying it.
it doesn't
does-
seem like it made it worse.
It does seem like that. You know how you can move through focus modes based on like which Bluetooth devices you're connected to and stuff like that. It does seem like the watch could also do that, where it has kind of the workout face. That's not what it's called, but that's basically what it is. Like your whole watch changes when you're doing a workout, and I feel like my watch could change when I do other things too.
Did you know you can change your watch face via shortcuts?
I did not know that, but that makes sense.
I have some time related watch face changes there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
That's the only thing I use shortcuts for.
I'm very surprised that they haven't done custom watch faces yet. That is, especially if they let people charge for them and took 30% on everything for a 99-cent watch face. Come on, guys, you're leaving money on the table.
For shame.
A baffling one to me. Continuing on, macOS Sonoma, coming to a device near you. A bunch of stuff, including, where's that tab? Widgets, guys. It's
everywhere.
all about the widgets. You may have noticed them buried on your computer before. Well, now they're coming to the desktop. They're movable, adjustable. You can place them anywhere. When you're using a window, they kind of fade into the background a little bit. And it's not only widgets that come native for Mac. You can put iPhone widgets. This to me was kind of crazy. You can put iPhone widgets on your Mac, even if that app is not installed on your Mac, if your phone is on the same Wi-Fi network or near enough your phone to make near enough your computer to make a connection. That's crazy.
I didn't catch that part. Yeah, wow.
So basically, for any app that doesn't have a compatible version on Mac OS, you can put the widget and control it, which I think is cool. I think of smart apps specifically that aren't HomeKit compatible or only work within their iOS app, you can put that control right on your Mac, which is kind of cool. They are Dan. They're installing our favorite app, Aerial Companion, is now built in, so you'll get those nice, beautiful video screensavers.
And it's better. It integrates with your wallpapers somehow.
Yeah,
Like
when you
it's all
log
animated?
in, it'll move, and then when you log in, it'll slowly stop, and then that becomes your background. It's going to be slick.
It's pretty cool.
What Apple does. Video conferencing upgrade, a presenter overlay mode that places you on top of the content using depth stuff. So like your presentation will be behind you, but in front of your background. There'll also be effects like hearts and balloons, and you can do 2 thumbs up with your hands and it'll make effects, and they'll work on Zoom, Teams, and everything else. I'm assuming they'll work here on Riverside because I'm assuming it's just through the camera.
Right.
So
Great.
we'll have some fun with that. There's also Dan, what's the app you're using right now to do like center
Camo
stage?
Studio.
Another one that's going in the waste heap, potentially, because I believe that will be built in as well. I realized the webcam I'm using to do the show is the same one I bought 10 years ago when we started to do this show.
Wow.
Still looks good after all these
So
years.
crisp.
1080p. And some Safari updates around privacy, profiles, private browsing's beefed up, game mode reduces background tasks, prioritizes CPU and GPU performance, reducing latency in AirPods and gamepads. that's most of the big stuff with Sonoma.
Was this where they did the whole Mac gaming segment?
Yes. Yeah, it was interesting. One thing that really stood out to me was their focus on making it easier for developers to port via Metal into Mac, developing tools specifically to make that easier, which I think is a big leap right now for a lot of developers.
Yeah.
So much stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. We're still not done because we've got to talk about some of the ancillary products. Apple TV users are going to get tvOS 17. You're going to be able to do FaceTime calls on your television, where your iPhone is going to be the camera using continuity camera, which is neat. Control Center on Apple TV has been redesigned. You can use Siri to find your lost remote. On AirPods Pro, there's a new adaptive audio feature that is kind of a mix between noise cancellation and transparency that's based on your environment. The earbuds will now be able to predict your volume preferences and automatically lower them if you start speaking to somebody. I'm very excited about adaptive audio because I find noise cancellation too aggressive for daily use. But I would like some of that feature. So I'm very excited to try that and see how that works. That's another one of those it's smart thing that you just pray actually works.
I mean, that's where, that's the point though, right? We get these smart things. The reason people are so attracted to the idea of AI is because it can do things for you. If you have to tell it exactly how to do everything, that's not great. I think you should be able to tell it exactly how to do something. That's where I think things get frustrating, is when you're like, but like, I just want to tell you this one thing. If only you knew. We had, last night, I think it was last night, we were trying to set a 50 minute timer, and it could not do it. We tried every way. We tried saying 50, it doesn't understand 50. It's like, what? What you want to be able to say is like, do not set a 15-minute timer, set a 50-minute timer, but you can't do that either. So that's where things get frustrating. But I think having things do things for you is what we should be using all this cool new hardware for.
Dan, you got to outsmart the machine. It's a 49-minute and 59-second timer. And you just need the second. I've done that. I've done that because I agree that is a very weird issue that I think we've all had.
I mean, it makes sense. It's, real humans mishear that all the time.
Now, do you guys think, this is a question I had, because I think the functionality is cool. Would you ever make a FaceTime call on your TV using your iPhone as the camera?
Maybe.
I do sometimes do Zoom calls with multiple members of the family, especially on holidays. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes people are floating in and out. I guess I could just like rest the iPhone like on the TV kind of, and let people kind of filter in and out. I don't think I'd use it regularly.
That was my thought too. I feel like once in a while there's a group, like a family FaceTime, usually.
Yeah.
Throw that on the TV.
Yeah, I think it was you who said it, Dan. This is a great second iPhone thing where I wouldn't want to strap my primary iPhone to it, but if I had a spare one around, when it's not on standby mode, showing me the time, I would throw it on a mount and use that. I think features like this will make that second, your old iPhone more valuable to keep than to resell.
Pour one out for the iPod Touch.
Classic. We've had this discussion before. They still sell those, right? Or did they just stopped? I know we had this discussion.
I thought they stopped, but it was like last year.
Yeah, it was pretty recent. Yeah, I mean, I would. One of these days, I'm going to go find out what like an iPhone 11 is running for these days used. If you wanted to get a backup phone. Oh, Dan, you're muted.
May 10th, 2022, and they discontinued the iPod Touch.
Wow. Sad. Sad. But again, like we said, these are just precursors potentially to a HomePod with a screen in it or an Apple TV with a camera in it. Who knows if it takes off? It's a good way to test the market, certainly.
Or what do they call them? A netbook from Apple. You just you just leave it on your kitchen counter. It's $100.
Technology's cyclical, Dan. It all comes back. And speaking of things that were tried in long ago and are now coming back, let's talk about virtual reality. Guys, we got one more thing here. A revolutionary device introducing the Apple Vision Pro.
Did anyone have that as the name?
I think they worked so hard to trademark all that, like Reality OS, and I think they hit it on purpose. I didn't see it anywhere. By the way, I think it's a great name. I do think it's it's a good name. Vision OS, Apple Vision. I think it's really good.
Apple Vision.
It just rolls off the tongue.
I mean, it's not as good as what was the contact sharing thing called? Name Drop? Name
Drop is great. We should do that every time we do one of these keynotes. Rank the made-up marketing terms. Because there are definitely some winners. Yeah. Yeah, the Vision Pro. Let's start with the hardware, and then we can talk about the software. It is an AR VR headset. Looks like a bunch of goofy looking ski goggles. It's a proprietary 3-element lens with dual 4K micro LED displays, 23 million pixels, IR cameras and LED illuminators on the inside for eye tracking, on the outside, LiDAR and traditional camera sensors. Powering the entire thing is an M2 processor strapped to a brand new R1 chip for responsive lag-free standalone performance. It will be powered by an external battery pack, or it can be operated plugged in. It'll run for 2 hours on the battery pack. It includes a solid button for taking photos and a digital crown for spinning, in addition to a theoretically comfortable rear strap and built-in speakers that get strapped pretty darn close to your head.
Yeah.
What do we think on looks? Before we talk about features, let's just talk pure looks.
I mean, the first image you see is the image of the person's eyes through the glass.
Yeah.
And that is incredibly striking. It's I think it could look bad in person. I think I see what they're doing though, both with that feature and with the FaceTime avatar thing, where it's like, oh, if you kind of blur the edges, then hair's hard, but noses are easier. Then I think it could work well. And on the front of the display, they have an easier task, just eyes. But that did look cool. So I think that is the it doesn't matter what the rest of it looks like, because the front of it has a screen.
Yeah.
It, unlike the Oculus, which does kind of look like you've got a giant, pyramid strapped to your head. This has a lot more room to play with stuff visually. Did you read the rumors about that it was going to be a Memoji based front, and it would like detect your emotions and stuff? Which is, I can see the kernel of truth in that now, and everyone was making fun of that, like that'd be terrible. But no one was so insane as to say like, but it'll be your actual eyes. When I first saw it, I was like, holy shit! It's the all of that technology that they've purportedly been developing to put Touch ID inside of the screen and all that. That's what this was all leading towards. Was like it's actually fully transparent, and it isn't.
Yeah.
But that was my first thought.
Trick.
Yeah.
I for a good long time, I liked and was distracted while I was watching the thing, and my 50% brain thought that that's what was what was actually happening, And before I took the time to think through, like, oh, it's like a video screen in front of your eyes. I was like, how do they do that? How can you see through the screen?
It's pretty wild.
At first, I was like, oh, they must be doing some there must be like a piece of glass or glass, and then they can like project over it, and maybe it's like the fancy windows that have built-in shades or something, where like your progressive lenses, where it like becomes not progressive lenses. I don't know what those are called. What are they called? Where like they dim themselves, they become are those progressive lenses? Transition lenses. I was like, oh, they must be like projecting onto the glass the images, and then like somehow blacking out the glass, and that's so crazy. Yeah, I don't think it was unreasonable at all to think that.
It's clever what they did, certainly. Well, let's talk about how you use the thing. It's a standalone headset, requires no additional hardware, and no dedicated controllers. Instead, thanks to all those cameras and sensors, it's entirely voice input, hand tracking, and eye gesture. And so the way it will work is you'll be able to simply use that aggressive eye tracking to look at things in your vision. The OS will know you're doing it, and you can use simple tap or swipe actions with just your hands to be able to adjust and use it in addition to voice commands. Interestingly enough, it really seems that they're focused mainly on AR over VR, I would argue. Certainly from what we saw in today's demo, there are VR elements, but it's really about being able to use apps and games and movies and those sorts of things in your real world setting, using the cameras as pass-through. They showed a whole bunch of different applications, obviously using traditional iOS style apps, messages, a web browser, things like that. They also showed games through Apple Arcade. They showed, as Dan mentioned, video calls, being able to receive them and see them in these people in real size in the real world, but also creating a persona or digital representation of you. So it looks like your face is talking, but it's actually just tracking your eyes and your mouth and your hands to recreate that. You can also pair it with Bluetooth accessories like a keyboard and trackpad and use your Mac apps. It'll use, again, that continuity to take your Mac and put it in this visual hierarchy and be able to use it there. What else? Of course, watching things like movies on a virtual screen up to 100 feet wide in 4K. It'll support being paired with an Xbox or PlayStation controller for gaming. And one of the big things is the digital crown at the top. As you spin it, you're actually adding or subtracting the virtual reality element. So it sort of creates that world around you. And when you max it out, obviously, then you're not seeing any of the real world anymore. It was quite an interesting element.
The thing I was most excited about was the bringing your Mac into the workspace and having the infinite display idea. When I tried that with the Oculus, and it was pretty compelling. It was a bit janky, and I think I prefer my 5K screen to that reality. But if, for example, this became socially acceptable, I would love to have that on an airplane. Like, imagine having 2 5K screens on your airplane. Now, they didn't announce that they could do multiple screens from your Mac, but I imagine that they totally could, and that something like that is coming if this is successful. So that idea to me is really exciting. Then, anyways, we can get into the actually using this to do work. But imagine having as many screens as you want wherever you want. Then your laptop doesn't even need to have a screen anymore.
Sure.
It's just like a battery that you put in your backpack.
I was going to say, theoretically, I mean, a number of these apps are going to be running native, right in Vision OS.
Right. I think that's the Galaxy Brain view. But for now, I can't build Docker images on my headset.
If I knew what that was, I'd agree with you.
Really burn your eyes off.
You'll burn your eyes off, kid.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've covered most of the features. Optic ID is, I think, the other big one we didn't cover. It'll
That's another
log in.
good show title, by the way. You'll burn your eyes out, kid.
You'll burn your eyes out, kid. We're gonna have 18 titles with this. It'll be our longest
Just
title
save
ever.
some for
Yeah, just apply them to
them.
future episodes. They'll never know. Optic ID actually uses your iris for unlocking and signing onto the device, which is pretty cool. There'll also be an app store for this thing coming forward. And of course, the other big piece of news, it is going on sale sometime early next year for the low price of $3,499. Which one of you is going to be the first to take the Vision Pro Challenge?
So here's the problem: is that it depends how early 2024 is. I suspect we're talking like March 2024,
Probably,
or maybe even like May 2024. I am out of commission for January 2024. But I can't imagine that. But so, anyways, I am certainly interested because I'm interested in. I think that people who are Apple programmer enthusiasts, people who build apps for Apple platforms, will build apps for this thing that are useful. Because that was the thing that was so frustrating in a way about using the Oculus to do work I could instantly see, I was like, oh, this is great. Like you can just, Windows can be any size, desktops can be any size, desktops can be anywhere. You don't even, like, there isn't like the moving your head. You don't have to move your head if you want to. You can just rotate the whole room around you. It is better and it is more ergonomic as long as the headset isn't too heavy and, shit like that. But there's like no one in that universe is interested in this. And Facebook isn't going to be pushing this angle of like, what if you had an operating system? And I think Apple uses this term, right? For spatial computing. What if, like with Windows, not the operating system, but the UI paradigm was like, oh, I have a window over here and I have a window over there. And that's a useful thing because the human monkey brain loves to think about things that way. It's why you can walk into a high-rise building for an interview and remember how to get back to the elevators, because your brain is literally built to figure that kind of shit out. So taking that thought technology and applying it to all the kinds of things that I do with computers is really exciting. And I think that people building apps for Apple's platforms will actually explore that, unlike the Oculus, where it's like whichever AAA video game studio Mark Zuckerberg has strong-armed into making a game for it, and then whatever crazy shit they're trying to build. Not crazy in a good way, but like bad. Like I don't know if we talked about this on the show. I tried the Horizon Worlds thing,
mm-hmm.
and it was just like a mildly more immersive version of something I felt like I could have gotten in the 90s, honestly. But it wasn't thinking outside of the box. And I think maybe that's what I'm getting at, is I think that the kind of people who write software for Apple's platforms will take this and take it in crazy directions, instead of like, what if it was a zombie game, or what if I could play tag?
Yeah. I feel like my takeaway from using the Quest was like, the cool part was the weird, like blurry gray, like see-through mode where you could see stuff and like see you could see like the incredibly low res sepia version of the room you're in.
Yeah.
And like that was really cool. I thought that was the really the coolest part. So it was cool to, I think it given Apple's what they do and where they're, I don't know, what people who, like you were saying, develop for iPhone and Mac, like what they do. I think it makes sense to lean into that part of it, because to me that's really cool. Like these things aren't necessarily interesting to me as like like I don't know that I'm particularly excited to play like VR games as compared to just playing a game the right old fashioned ways. Because I don't play games that much maybe, but thinking about being able to, it seems cool for work stuff. I think that's the thing I'm interested in too, Dan. And we'll see. There was so when I purchased my off-brand, like relatively inexpensive monitor instead of its studio display earlier this year, it occurred there was a thought in my mind that maybe I'll maybe we'll get an AR monitor or something.
I see.
We'll see what the bank account looks like.
Well, what the company will let you expense.
Well, yeah, we can take all of the ad referrals and Amazon referral money we've made and just get 3 of these, Sean. I think we should be able to.
I think you mean 3/10 of one, if we're lucky. I think we can get an extra strap for the one we don't have.
If there's ad money floating around, we should definitely.
I have not.
We couldn't even get 3/10 of one would be $1,000. $1,000.
Yeah, no, it's that's we
couldn't even afford 1/10 of one.
Jesus, as you said, how many Honda Accords is that? So
half of one.
I think I'm not 100% sold, but I will say I think Apple is very good at taking technologies that exist and finding the perfect way a consumer would use them. And I think, and I have the same complaints with the Quest that you guys have, is using it makes me do 2 things I don't want to do. One is totally block off the world from my vision, and the other is flail my arms around a lot. I don't want to do those things. I want to sit on the fucking couch or in my office chair. And one of my favorite things that they pointed out in this was you don't even have to raise your hands to use this thing because of the downward facing. Your hands can be on your lap and you're just flicking through stuff. That's how I want to use this. That's how I use my phone. That's how I want to use this technology. And to me, the idea that technology works with your environment, not instead of it, I think is a brilliant idea. And I think the implementation of it is good. Now, am I suspicious it's going to work exactly as they promised? Absolutely. They promised way more than they probably should have. And of course, it is ludicrously expensive. I'm very concerned that obviously this is the first version and you think 5 years from now, what is it going to look like and what is it going to cost? I don't know how you get something that costs $3,500 and get it to $500, even in 5 years. I'm very suspicious this will ever be. I don't know how you cut enough corners to make that happen. We'll see.
Yeah, I think we're aiming for MacBook Pro pricing within 5 years, I think. Like a $3,500, you can get a fucking awesome MacBook Pro. But you can also spend a lot less money, and also get a MacBook Pro. So that I would expect it to be at like $2,000 within 5 years would be my guess.
Well, my $1 million thing is this. I think the hardware is very compelling. I got to see the software. The first iPhone didn't have an app store, and it was an okay device. And then it got apps, and it became an incredible device. I think they crushed the hardware. I got to see if anyone builds anything compelling, because if all you can do on it is build spreadsheets and browse the web, I wouldn't pay for that, even at $500. You got to get this thing has to be an indispensable part of the many facets, so I can go from watching TV to browsing Twitter to playing a game to all the apps I have on my phone I'm going to want on this thing. If they can get developers to truly develop, and I don't know how you get them, how many of these are they going to sell at $3,500? What's the user base for this going to be? Are developers going to spend time developing an app for the 200 people who own one? I don't know.
I think, so Apple will be, there will be versions of this headset made available to developers before it is released. That is literally all we know, at least as of like an hour and a half ago. I think if Apple were smart, they would just give these. They would have some sort of vetting process and then just give them to developers, because they've got enough money.
Yeah. Someone, by the way, free business idea. Someone should go out and buy 20 of these and rent them by mail. They'd make a goddamn fortune. I'm telling you, rent them for a week at a time. So nerds like us, I would pay $50 or $70 for 2 weeks with this thing. Although
Oh yeah,
at
I'm sure
3,500, you'd have to
there
rent it
will
out
be
a
things
lot
like
to,
that.
yeah, it would take you a while to get your money back even on that. My question for you guys, I think it's compelling. I think the vision is strong. My question for you two is, if the device were available for sale today with everything you saw in today's demo, what is the absolute highest price you would be willing to put down now to purchase one?
No, I'm not allowed to wait for the reviews to come out.
No, it's a pre-order, and you can order it now. And just based on, because we don't know what the future is, so just based on today, what's the max you'd be willing to put down? Where it's the price point where you're like, this is I have to have it.
Wait, you're saying the highest price or
The highest
the price at which you would be willing to consider buying it?
Yes, anything more than that, you're like, it's not worth it.
I mean, I think I'm considering buying it as it is now because I believe so strongly that this, like, it's not about AR and VR. It's about bringing your computer into the third dimension. I believe so strongly that will make the computer better to use, more fun. You'll do things faster. You'll be able to do things you were never able to do before. Like we talked about, like the stupid Time Machine UI from 10, 15 years ago, probably.
Sure.
That idea of like, what if I could see all the versions of this file and just like zoom through them? Like that's just the beginning, I think, of what people come up with. And part of me, perhaps aspirationally, what's the like, this is not the kind of aspirational user that I think Apple's aiming at, but part of me is like, oh, I want to build one of those things, so I'm going to get this thing. I'm totally not going to do that. I mean, if anything's possible, but it's probably not possible. But that is a sort of thing that's motivating me. Yeah. And if Meta, I'll call you Meta to in this conversation, had shown me something like that, I would have been interested. And while they were interested in the workplace aspect of it, and we did the whole episode with it, and that was cool, there was no vision for me to look at and be like, oh, this rate of improvement is going to grow exponentially. It's like, I don't know, maybe in a couple years, I'll be able to do more cool things in Workplace Horizons. But for now, it's just like super bare bones. But because it is a more open platform, and I trust that Apple has developers they've put in the time to get them motivated to build cool, unique things for this. That's what puts me over the edge.
Yeah, I mean, it is fascinating how important, regardless of the hardware, software, just simply selling the vision is. For Mark Zuckerberg, it's like, we have legs now. The avatars have legs. It's like, that isn't selling a vision.
No one cares about legs. And I think that there was not a single body represented in 3D in this thing.
They barely showed even full VR. They barely showed it. I mean, to me, even if this hardware and software is a flop, they've at least set up something that says, this is what we think the future looks like. Maybe it'll change, but at least we're going towards something. To me, Oculus is like, yeah, we put a couple screens and some goggles. Maybe they'll make games for it. Like, I don't get it. But with this, it's like, okay, I can see it a little bit more. It's interesting. You guys are nerds. I say that with absolute compliment. You guys are huge fucking dorks. And so I totally get what you're saying, Dan. For you guys, I like to think of myself as a regular Joe who's tech savvy. And I don't think I could pay more than $500 to $700 for this thing today. I just couldn't. Because while it's cool, it's not indispensable. It is not a requirement. There's nothing this does necessary. Now, you can talk about like the 3D photograph stuff. I think is kind of special.
I was gonna say that's the like really unique thing.
But then again, you got to wear those stupid big goggles everywhere you go to get the pictures.
But the reason why you do that is because then you can see the 3D photo as you're taking it. You actually know what it's going to look like.
Absolutely. So that's unique. But overall, in today's, that's why the software is interesting. What are the applications I don't even know exist yet that make me want it? If it is just doing spreadsheets, even though I do spreadsheets all day, I'm fine with my computer. So great vision, exciting hardware, ludicrously expensive. I'm curious to see what happens next, but it was I thought at least a positive showing.
Even with spreadsheets, though, Sean, I think about spreadsheets all the time, actually. And spreadsheets are incredible. And you have the fundamental model of like, here's this cell, which is a math formula, and it can reference other cells, but you quickly get lost, right? Because you're like, what is going to change when I change this cell? And when you change something, you can't even tell what changed. If the spreadsheet's big enough, even if it's.
But what if it were 100 feet tall?
What if there was some sort of like, the human eye is really good at detecting motion. If if you stand in a field and it's like spot birds, you'll spot tons of birds. But the monitor in front of you doesn't really do that. And maybe people could, right? Maybe your spreadsheet could ripple in fun ways and then you'd see things. But like, I think it could be indispensable. I agree that it isn't. It obviously isn't indispensable yet.
Well, and again, that's what's neat about this is it's also a great couch device. Like it is so, because of the pass through, it's so much more universal.
Sean, you probably haven't seen this. This is some real nerd shit here. But there's this famous nerd guy named Brett Victor who has spent the last 10 years building a really crappy but nerdier version of this thing, where it's like, you know what? I don't want to put something on my face. What if my entire house was the computer? It's sort of like the Amazon store with all the cameras above. But what if you had that? And instead of like flicking your fingers, instead of doing things with your hands that were kind of like when you move your hand on the mouse, right? Like, and that's cool and useful. But then you have the iPhone, you'd be like, I can touch the thing. And now it like that was so much better. His vision is like, why even have screens at all? Why can't I interact with physical objects? Why can't I take my Apple shortcut that is written on a piece of paper? Here it is. And I can print out a new one and then like load it into my house by like putting it on the wall. And my house knows you put the program on the wall. Now this is part of the smart home feature. And stuff like that. And it sounds dumb, but then when you watch someone use it, you're like, oh yeah, this makes things way more explicable, because now I'm looking at my smart home and instead of it being a bunch of shortcuts that I have to click into individually, be like, oh right, here's an if statement and that's where that is. I'm like, here it is. It's all here. And the mind is so good at grokking that stuff. Like you can open up your cabinet in the kitchen and be like, yep, there's the sauces, the pasta, the spices, and like instantly see where you want to go. How often can you move that quickly on your computer? Oftentimes you're like, oh, search, I'm going to search for this term. And you're like, oh, I got a bajillion fucking documents here. I don't know. Because you can't leave anything where you found it because nothing is anywhere. So that's my counter pitch is I'll send you some of these videos because I think that is an interesting vision.
But again, that's the software thing. Like, and by the way, one of the things that I loved was, again, they were like, these windows cast shadows on the floor.
Yeah.
Like they have all this ARKit experience that's going to make it feel real. And the day somebody comes around and says, you're going to walk around your house and the built-in cameras are going to scan all your shit. So when you walk up to your cabinet and you open it, it'll know, like, I'm waiting for
Actually,
that
this would be a cool
step.
app. This would be a cool app. You put the headset on and kind of like the thing I was just explaining, it makes explicit your HomeKit shit. So it's like, oh, there's your smart switch. It's over there. Boop, you can like look at it and see all of the actions and automations attached to the smart switch, and your smart switch is right there. You're not like looking at your phone and being like, oh, Meros V2 hex number. Which one is that? It's like, no, it knows where it is. It's got the ultra wideband chip. Why can't I just look at it and show me all the stuff?
Well, that's one thing they aggressively did not show is the headset interacting with the real world. It was all floating windows. They showed basically nothing that says it's mapping onto the wall or, here's
but
like
we know that it can do that because of all the ARKit stuff. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. But it was interesting they didn't show it. And I don't know if that's a limitation. Yeah. I don't know if they just chose.
That's true.
They would have done like a GPS where it's like a virtual arrow that shows you where you're like, they did none of that. It was all floating windows.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
I read an article a couple days ago about this stuff, and they mentioned the Minecraft demo from ARKit a couple of years ago, and I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was super cool. How come I still can't play Minecraft on my coffee table? That's like, I would love to play Minecraft on my coffee table.
Yeah, it's good. Hey, listen, I'm the guy who's excited to be able to doodle on PDFs. Okay, I'm not the Vision Pro guy, but I think it's neat, and I cannot wait to spot the first person in the wild wearing one of these. I remember when Apple Watches, it's like you're looking for somebody wearing the Apple Watch. Some dork on an airplane is going to be wearing one of these.
It's gonna
And it's going to be like
in the first class on the airplane. Some
I'm gonna-
AWS VP here for me, probably. Yeah.
and I'm going to be in coach, and I'm going to be so goddamn jealous. Wonderful. Any other takeaways from today's event? We managed to do it in almost an hour less than it took them. Slowpokes. I think it was good. I think it was a good day of announcements. Again, Vision Pro was pretty groundbreaking. The rest of the stuff was mildly predictable, but I liked all of the OS enhancements. I thought were, especially things like the visual voicemail and those contact-specific images that come up, like those little things that I think are going to make it a better daily experience. That's what I left with. I don't really care about Vision Pro. It's cool. It was neat to see. I'm not going to spend a lot of time thinking about it.
Yeah. I'm excited about, I think the Vision Pro stuff is like, this is a moment in time thing. And I think I like none of the stuff that they showed or demoed, I think is very exciting, but it is like, if you can get people to make stuff for it, right? This is the get people to make stuff for it phase.
The hardware
Like,
seems great.
Right. Get nerdy people who care enough, think this is cool enough to spend that much money on it, and like see what they do. And if the hardware is good and the platform is good enough to do interesting stuff, like people will do interesting stuff. And the stuff that people do with this is the stuff that's going to make like non dorky people want one, not like the stuff that they demoed today.
Absolutely.
So we'll see,
Yeah, I mean, there'll be a light version. I mean, there's a reason they called this thing Pro right off the offset. That wasn't an accident.
Sure.
There will be a Vision Lite or a Vision Air or whatever they call it down the line. I think they've got to build. Honestly, I would rather them come out with a $3,500 one than a $500 one that's a piece of crap.
Right. Yeah. Because, I mean, if
shoot for the damn stars.
Right. It's the first version of this thing. Like, why be... If the point of this is to get like enthusiastic people to like make things with it, like why limit? Like why put a barrier to what can be accomplished in the hopes that to like try and sell many of this thing that is not ready for everyone yet.
Well, listen, people forget the first iPhone did not sell that well. It was one carrier. It was overly expensive, especially compared to other phones. No app store, the software was not overly compelling compared to other phones. Yeah, it had some wow features, but it wasn't required. It wasn't seen as a necessity, and it took a couple versions to get it right. So, definitely one of the more interesting WWDCs we've ever covered, and we'll certainly stay on top of all this. My last question to you guys. Any Apple hardware purchases in your future based on what we saw today or in general? Are we satisfied?
I'm definitely a little bit jealous of the big MacBook Air. I wish mine could grow just like 2 diagonal inches. But what are you going to do? I guess I don't use it that much, so.
Aside from Reality Pro, no, I'm good. I was going to joke and say a Mac Pro, but I could get 2 Reality Pros for a Mac Pro. So,
yeah, but they can't do as many 8K full res
right.
streams over
AKs
Thunderbolt.
Can your Reality Pro do? It's like 1 per eye, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's 2. It's better than a Honda Accord,
right?
That could be the episode title.
At 1/10 of a price.
Awesome. Well, listen, this was a hoot, gentlemen. This was a good one. 10 years. Our actual anniversary is in like 2 weeks, but our 10th WWDC. Isn't that something?
Certainly.
That's
is.
incredible.
Oh my gosh. I think they've rolled out and canceled more products in the time we've been doing this. My goodness, it's been a long time.
Wild.
I mean, I know AirPower is one of them.
I was just gonna say what other an iPod Touch? What other products have they canceled in our tenure?
That's what I got to look at the timeline here of what
I might make this website of the graph of all of the Apple Keynote links over time. I think that would be interesting.
They would be fun to watch. In the time we've been doing this, they bought Beats. They introduced the Apple Watch, HomePod, which was canceled and then brought back. So
that's true.
If you want to cop that,
that
Apple
counts.
Music, streaming service, Apple TV Plus. These are all around. I said AirPower, iPhone 10, 8, Watch Series 3. Just scanning these here. What else was new? All the M1 and Apple Silicon, which is all still around.
Don't forget about AirTags.
Apple Card.
All of AirPods, right? Did you say that?
No, I didn't even say that.
Every AirPod product.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, I didn't tell you guys. I got a gimmick for next week's episode.
Okay.
I got a bit. Should I tease the bit now?
What if it's a bad bit?
It's a great bit. It's an awesome bit. You're going to love it. Are you guys familiar with, how do you say it? Temu?
No.
They had Super Bowl commercials. It's a new push by a tiny Chinese tech giant that they've rolled out this.
A tiny Chinese tech giant?
I met a Chinese tech giant. It's been a long day. And their whole gimmick is they ship things directly from China to your door, cutting out the middleman. Their other gimmick is that they're willing to lose a shit ton of money to get a foothold in the US. What that means is free shipping on everything direct from China. And it's all China knockoff crap. You can get socks for 67 cents. You can get a pair of AirPods for $4.99. And I think about it. I think next week we can talk more and dig into it. I think we need to each put up 20 or 30 bucks and see what cool stuff we can find and buy and review on the show. There's a lot of knockoff tech on there that I think would be a hoot.
I mean, maybe by next week there'll be a knockoff.
There's some wild shit on here.
The top 3 trending searches on Temu right now are shoes, dresses for women, and Y2K.
Honestly, there's stuff on there. You get like fake money, and like I said, they lose. I read a.
Y2K is apparently some K-pop thing?
Oh,
okay, this is making more sense. It's like I don't know. It's like a style of pants, maybe.
You can get 12 kitchen sponges for $1.87.
Y2K aesthetic. I'm going down a rabbit hole here.
There's some good. Oh, no. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It really is the crazy. And they got all the gimmicky stuff. It's a hoot. So anyway, do Google around. We can talk more about it next week, whether or not we're going to do it. But I think it would be a fun episode to see us get some of this. Here's a neck fan for $9.98. Just fun stuff. Anyway, guys, I think we're overdue for wrapping this up. Shall we? We're done. Great WWDC. Hope everyone out there enjoyed us. Of course, we're live on the Triplecast Monday nights, Facebook, YouTube, and our Twitch channel. You can join us 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. We hope you do. But if you don't, you can get the recorded episodes on our website, don'tpanic.io. Links to the audio and video episodes, including the full archives, are available there, as well as wherever you get your podcast. Just subscribe to Don't Panic. Look for that big red button. You can get in contact with us, don'tpanicshow@gmail.com, or tweet at us at don'tpanicshow. Your thoughts on the show and WWDC. But we're done here. We're going to be back next Monday with some more tech news and good times. On behalf of Colby and Dan, I'm Sean. We appreciate you being here. We're going to see you next time for another episode of Don't Panic.